Hello, and welcome to the 90s Week by Week, where we are going through each and every week in the 90s in chronological order. I'm your host, Brandon, coming at you from Grubby's Private Bar. Each episode, we bring on a different guest to go through the pop culture and events of the week we're taking a look at. On this episode, we'll be covering the week of March 4th through March the 10th in the year 1990. With me today is Bryan Brewer. Hi, Bryan. How are you today?
Mr. Grubb, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us.
Absolutely. Episode 10.
Episode 10, yeah.
This is a monumental event.
You're my first double digit.
I know. Woohoo!
Yeah. What did a day or night in 1990 look like for you? What might you have been doing?
Oh, I would probably have to guess playing sports, if I was in the basketball or, that sort of thing, going to the sporting events, hanging with friends. I mean, it was kind of, middle school time frame, so it was what you were trying to do, spend as much time not at home with your parents and hang out with your friends. So I would probably have to say avoiding being home as much as possible.
I understand that, and we were both in the 7th grade.
Yes.
At Covington Middle School.
Covington Middle School.
In 1990, our friendship hadn't quite blossomed to what it ended up being at this point.
Middle school is always a trying time in figuring out who you are, what you're going to do, and all that stuff. So, but I'm very glad it did blossom to where it is today.
Who were you?
What do you mean? Who was I?
You said middle school's about finding out who you are. In hindsight, do you have any idea who you were?
No clue. Still no clue on that one. So I think, me, I always try to be, funny, outgoing as much as possible. So I didn't.
In 1990?
In 1990, yeah. I think I tried to be. I didn't, I wouldn't say that I stuck with a clique or anything along those lines. Back then you had, your popular kids, your not popular kids. And I think I was just kind of somewhere in the middle. I like to play that, middle ground. I was definitely not a skateboarder by any means, just because I couldn't do it, and I didn't have the fashion sense that those guys did. I couldn't grow my hair the way they did either, so, and not the coordination. That was a funny thing. I couldn't skateboard for nothing, but I played all kinds of sports and everything along those lines. Just couldn't get the hang of it. So yeah, it was just I tried to be friends with everybody, so as much as possible. I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into one group or another. So just enjoy it and have fun. So, but it's always an interesting time growing up. And let's see, how old were we back then? That we were what? 13, so just getting into the teenage years and everything.
You said that you couldn't grow your hair like the skaters. Is that because your hair wouldn't grow like that, or because your parents wouldn't let you?
It wouldn't grow like that. My hair was very jacked up. It would, if I could let it get longer, I couldn't do anything with it. Still today, that's why I always keep my hair short, because it would almost like afro out, curl everywhere. And all those guys had long hair, straight hair, bangs, and all that stuff. And they're just, I think you could even look at my picture in your yearbook and see that it was just kind of a mop up there. So
the longer and more defined the bangs, the better.
Yeah, there were some long ones. I don't even think I had a hairstyle. I just woke up and tried to do whatever I could with it. So, and it came out really funky.
I wanted the long bangs really bad. I was not allowed to have them, but you can see that you can see my attempts in the yearbook where they just kind of cover my forehead and then stop at my eyebrow. So it was like a really awkward in between. All right, well, how about we dig into what was going on in 1990?
Yeah, I'd like to go down that road.
Every day between March the 4th through March the 10th, the top song was Escapade by Janet Jackson. The top 10 for this week were number 10, Love Will Lead You Back by Taylor Dayne. Number 9, I Go to Extremes by Billy Joel. Number 8, Here We Are by Gloria Estefan. Number 7, No More Lies by Michelet. Number 6, Opposites Attract by Paula Abdul. Number 5, Price of Love by Bad English. Number 4, Black Velvet by Alana Miles. Number 3, Rome by the B-52s. Number 2, Dangerous by Roxette. And number 1 was Escapade by Janet Jackson. The top country song for this week was Chains by Patti Loveless. And the top rap and hip-hop song was Expression by Salt and Peppa. Notable releases for this week were on March the 5th, the band Fleetwood Mac released the single Save Me. And also on March 5th, the band In Vogue released their single Hold On. Billy Joel's I Go to Extremes and Taylor Dayne's Love Will Lead You Back both debuted in the top 10 this week. Do you remember either one of those songs?
Not at all. I really didn't get into music till probably, I listened to it, but I didn't really pay attention to it, I guess I should say, until probably 92, 94, in that time frame. So, because one of our good friends, Cumbo, he was big into it, and I can remember getting my first stereo, and I think that was probably when I was 14 or 15. So I just kind of never really paid attention, I guess. I watched a lot of TV, so back then, but I wasn't really into the music scene too terribly much in the early 90s.
So you probably didn't go to any concerts around this time?
No, I take that back. I think I went to one concert in my middle school years. It was with my mom and dad, and it was Jimmy Buffett was my first concert. Not a bad one to go to.
No, not at all.
Definitely an eye-opener for what I witnessed with the tailgating and the drinking and everything. So if we in the first show and having someone puke their guts up right in front of you always makes things interesting.
Well, I'll have you back in 97 so that we can discuss our Jimmy Buffett experience when you and I went.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have any thoughts or memories about any of these songs in the top 10?
I do remember the Escapade, Janet Jackson, because she was pretty attractive in that video, if I remember right. So, wasn't she like kind of, was it a beach or was it was an outdoors? I remember it was kind of an outdoorsy video, and I can't remember. I was trying to remember on the way up here what the premise of the video was for that.
I remembered it as a carnival, but I could be wrong. Like,
okay.
She's frolicking around with some people in a festive setting.
Yeah, okay. Dangerous, I do not remember at all. Black Velvet, I remember that one. Opposites Attract. Was that the one with the cartoon? Was it a wolf or something?
Cat.
A cat, that's what it was. Yeah, I do remember that video.
MC Cool Cat, I think.
MC Cool Cat. Yeah, I do remember that video. That's probably about it for the top 10.
Yeah, it was kind of an awkward time in music, really. But the top 10 doesn't generally reflect, I think, what a lot of people are listening to either.
Right.
Like, I don't know who these numbers are based on. Like, what age group is that? Young people, adults, our parents? Like, I don't know who's dictating that.
Yeah, I know. Because, I would have thought, like, Guns N' Roses would have been on there, Motley Crue, or, some of the hair bands from the late 80s were still producing pretty good music in that time frame, but none of them were on the top 10, so it's kind of interesting.
I think in January, the first week of January 1990, Skid Row was on there. And Motley Crue shows up in a week or two with not Dr. Feelgood, but a song off of Dr. Feelgood. So, like, as you know, and everybody knows, around this time, we're starting to see hair bands trickle down and grunge emerge,
Right.
Let's take a look at movies, shall we?
Sounds good.
The top movie every day between March the 4th and March the 10th was The Hunt for Red October. The top 5 movies for this week were number 5, Driving Miss Daisy. Number 4, Bad Influence. Number 3, House Party. Number 2, Joe versus the Volcano. And number 1, The Hunt for Red October. I know I saw Joe versus the Volcano back in the day, but I don't remember much about it, so I watched it yesterday to jog my memory.
I do recall the movie. I do remember enjoying the movie. Who else was in that with him?
Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan.
And maybe like some minor characters that I barely remember. Because, to be honest, I didn't love it when I watched it yesterday. It felt like a Tim Burton ripoff, kind of. Like it had like the dingy, like Edward Scissorhands and all those movies, just kind of over the top, colors over the top. Just, it was a very exaggerated feel, and the performances are over the top and kind of inconsistent. Meg Ryan plays 3 different people in it.
Oh, wow.
Consecutively, yeah, and 2 of them are half sisters.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I don't know why they chose to do that, but her characters were just kind of, I don't know, I couldn't really grasp who she was supposed to be.
No.
That's, me, I look at things on a kind of an unnecessarily deep level.
Right. So, but if I remember right, was the premise he quit his job or was given like bad news medically or something like that, right?
Yeah, he had 60 days to live.
Okay, all right. And then went to an island or something, right? Was going to sacrifice himself in the volcano, or am I wrong on that?
A millionaire finds out about it, and these islanders have a mineral that he needs to produce a superconductor. And they don't want to let him in to get it, but they need somebody has to sacrifice themselves every 100 years in the volcano to appease the volcano god or whatever.
Okay.
But the stipulation is it has to be willingly, and none of the islanders want to do it. So this guy gives Tom Hanks like whatever he wants for a couple days to go do this for him, since he's going to die anyway, and he agrees to do it. But then he ends up falling in love with the 3rd Meg Ryan character.
Okay, on the island?
Yeah, on the way to the island.
On the way to the
She's the daughter of the millionaire.
Okay.
And then he finds out, you know what, just in case anybody's going to watch it, I won't spoil the end of it.
Leave it as a nice little cliffhanger there?
Yeah. Yeah, I give you enough to...
Well, I don't want to spoil it, but one other thing that pops in my mind was there's something about a suitcase or isn't that a component of the movie?
Yeah, it's like iconic. For some reason, I think it's even the cover of the VHS sleeve of the movie poster, and I think he's standing on the luggage in the middle of the water with a giant moon behind him or something.
Yeah, that's right.
And there is a scene with a giant moon and him standing on the luggage. The luggage he buys, because he just starts blowing this millionaire's money before he goes, like just whatever he wants for the heck of it, because he doesn't care. And he's buying luggage for his voyage to the island, and so he just gets the most expensive kind of luggage and a bunch of it. And it's these giant pieces with all these compartments and things in them, and he ends up, the boat he's on goes down, so he ends up using the luggage as his raft.
Okay, for some odd reason I have in my mind that it got spit out of the volcano or something like that, and they ended up in the ocean, but the boat goes down.
Well, the boat does go down, but it's possible that what you said is also true. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well we can leave it at that. We don't want to spoil it.
So. Yes, correct. So I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe I would have liked it. Maybe I did like it back in 1990. I doubt it, but I didn't love it now.
I definitely remember watching it a couple times.
One of Meg Ryan's characters calls herself a flibberty gibbet in the movie. What do you think a flibberty gibbet is?
A flibberty?
A flibberty gibbet.
A flibberty gibbet.
She says it like 2 or 3 times. I'm such a flibberty gibbet.
I would have to probably say that would mean to me a very ditzy person.
I like that. I think you're right.
You know?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Nice way to say that you're just not all there or something along those lines.
Absent-minded, distracted.
Yeah. Yep, flippity gibbet.
Yeah, I fully expect you to use this going forward.
I think we need to bring it back.
We're going to make it a thing. We're going to trend it. On their way to the volcano, they fish off the boat that they're on. Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan do. Were you fishing in 1990? And if so, where?
Yeah, I would do as much outdoor stuff as I probably could. So in 1990, I don't believe that we may have owned the pond then. So my dad and uncle bought some land south of where we grew up, and it was in that time frame that they bought it. So probably out there or creeks, things along those lines. My dad and I would take yearly trips to Canada fishing, so that's always a highlight of my life is going to Canada. And back in the day we were able to fly on the steel grip plane, which was something not everybody got to do, so it was kind of cool to be able to leave Danville, Illinois at 8 o'clock in the morning and be in Canada 3 hours later. Some of the places we went, it wasn't a traditional airport to land. So we would land in airstrips out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. So I remember a few times having to fly over and make sure there was no bears around or anything along those lines to, scare them off. And a few times we get there and the trash cans, nobody operated these airports. There was no tower. There was no nothing. It was just either a dirt runway or a cement runway out in the middle of nowhere. And we'd land and we had a deal with the camp people that would come and pick us up in a pickup truck. So we would get there, we'd call them that we were leaving at 8 o'clock in the morning and tell them the time frame we would be there. And sometimes we'd have to wait a couple, 2 or 3 hours for them to come and pick us up. So you're out in the middle of nowhere, Canada, being 12, 13 years old. And, bears around, but, it didn't really, I wasn't scared or anything along those lines. It was just kind of a new adventure. So, but that was, probably my biggest fishing experience was up in Canada during those years. So,
like Northern Ontario?
It was Ontario, wasn't Northern. It was. We were probably. You'd always have to stop at International Falls to do the customs check. So we'd have to land, and then we'd get back up in the air for about another 45 minutes. So, a town called Dryden, which probably by car would be 2 or 3 hours from the border.
Okay.
So was kind of the bigger town that was around the area. So, but it was a fun time. You're up there and you catch fish, you eat them, and that's what you do: eat, sleep, breathe, fishing. So it was a fun experience. Always definitely something I'll keep in my mind and hope to be able to do with my son when he gets of age as well too. But
yeah, that's awesome.
That was probably my biggest fishing time there locally, doing creeks and our pond and things like that. So
I think it was around this time where a mutual friend of ours and I went fishing in this small pond south of town, like out River Road.
Okay.
And Mark cast and caught my jacket. Proceeded to go ahead, and it was a windbreaker. Of course, in 1990, you had to have a windbreaker.
Yeah. I remember, this is not in the 90s, but when I was a kid with my dad, same pond. Because I think it was called Wacklaws, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. We went out there, and I was sitting in his lap, and the fish took the thing, and he went to set the hook, and the fishing reel popped me in the eye. bloodied my eye all up, and I can remember, obviously being all crazy scared and everything, and had to go over and rinse my eye out and all that stuff. So, when you're fishing, you never know what the heck's going to happen. So,
true story, especially back then.
Mm-hmm.
Was or is Tom Hanks one of your favorite actors, or Meg Ryan one of your favorite actresses?
I wouldn't say Meg Ryan wasn't any favorite, but Tom Hanks was. He was in a lot of comedy type shows. The Burbs was one of my all time favorite shows with him. That and Money Pit back in mid '80s, I think, that sort of thing. But from a comedic standpoint, he was pretty funny. I enjoyed a lot of the comedy shows, more dramatic ones. Sleepless in Seattle. I mean, when you're 13 years old, you're not really paying attention to those, or at least I wasn't back then. So, but he was up there for me, I would say.
Very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
Very diverse actor. I watched Bad Influence for the first time. I don't even remember that movie existing. You?
No. You'll have to jog my memory on that one.
Yeah, it was... So it had Rob Lowe and James Spader. Is that his name?
Okay, yeah.
And James Spader's like a Wall Street guy. Or a finance guy, I don't know. And he's very insecure and kind of spineless, and Rob Lowe shows up and starts influencing him to be abrasive and do things, and it gets him farther in his career, but it kind of spirals out of control. To be honest, as I watched it, it felt like I was watching Fight Club.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was almost, and this precedes Fight Club by several years. So, I doubt there's any influence to Fight Club, but it was like Fight Club without the twist ending.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like it goes south and there was a big confrontation between them, and it was moderately entertaining. I'd say that I would watch it again before I would watch Joe versus the Volcano. But it was apparently a forgettable movie.
And it was James Spader and who? Rob Lowe?
Rob Lowe.
Were they in a kind of like you mentioned about Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan doing movies together? Weren't they in like a group of young actors? Like Demi Moore was in it.
The Brat Pack.
Yeah. Okay. Were they part of that?
They very well could have been, if not both, one at least.
I thought Spader was for sure. But
yeah.
I wasn't sure if that kind of had a similar trend with starring in movies together. That group.
Emilio Estevez might have been in that group.
Yeah.
I was never a huge James Spader fan, but he's again somebody that I'm growing to appreciate a little bit more the older I get.
Yeah, I agree. In some of his more recent stuff, he's a pretty good actor.
Yeah, he was in a TV show with lawyers, right? William Shatner.
Yeah, that one, and he was in one on Netflix, a series where he's like a super criminal or something like. I can't remember. It was a good show. I wish I could remember the name of it, but pretty good show. And then I think he was a voice of Ultron in the Avengers, one of the Avengers
really?
too. Yeah, I believe so.
Wow. All right. How about we turn our attention to television?
Sounds good.
All right.
The top 10 in television this week were number 10, Who's the Boss?, which was a rerun. Number 9, In the Heat of the Night, titled Home is Where the Heart Is. Number 8, Golden Girls, which was a rerun. Number 7, The Wonder Years, which was also a rerun. Number 6, 60 Minutes. Number 5, A Different World, titled Hillman Isn't Through With You Yet. Number 4, The Cosby Show, which was a rerun. Number 3, Roseanne, also a rerun. Number 2, Cheers, with the title 50-50 Carla. And the number 1 show was America's Funniest Home Videos. The cover of TV Guide this week said Parents' Guide to Children's Television in the middle, with various kid-oriented shows and cartoons underneath, such as Muppet Babies, Sesame Street, Fraggle Rock, The Wonder Years, Mr. Rogers, Winnie the Pooh, and Pee Wee Herman. On March the 5th, Oliver Stone and Smokey Robinson were guests on the Arsenio Hall Show. On March the 6th, Raquel Welch and Robert Picardo were guests. On March the 7th, it was Rob Lowe. On March 8th, Tom Hanks and Vlade Divac. And then on March 9th, Patrick Dempsey was the guest. On March the 10th, a film called Waitress was featured on USA Up All Night. On this week's episode of Quantum Leap, titled Good Heart, Dear Heart, Sam leaps into a mortician. He becomes suspicious of a young German girl's death when he finds a small hole in her head and decides that to leap, he must figure out who did it. His primary suspect is the wealthy son of a country club owner, especially when he finds out that she was secretly pregnant with his child. On Days of Our Lives this week, Kayla gets permission to take Stephanie to prison with her while she serves out her term, but ends up leaving the baby with Patch. Patch hires a nanny to help raise her. Also, Shane tracks Cal to a mountain cave where he has taken Kimberly and rescues her. Did you watch Quantum Leap?
I did. One of my all-time favorite shows.
Same. A great show. Do you have any particular episode that stands out in your head?
The one where he was, I think it was kind of a multi-part series where he was in Lee Harvey Oswald.
Really?
Yeah, he jumped into his body. That was one that really stuck out to me. I thought it was an interesting dynamic for a TV show to do something like that. And obviously, I think he couldn't really change the future. And you would, when it was first going on, you kind of thought, okay, he's there to, not kill Kennedy or save that. But that wasn't really the ultimate component to the show. Or when he leaps in, he always has something he has to change for the better, but that wasn't the component of the show. I just can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember that was a good one. I think there was one he leaped into a baseball player, which was pretty good. But yeah, all-time favorite show for me back in the day.
Yeah.
So I like the sci-fi type stuff, and it had a little component of it. I have not gotten into the reboot of it yet, though. I haven't watched an episode, and just kind of felt like you couldn't redo that with new characters. I'm not a fan when TV shows or movies or anything, try and reboot something and still have the same names of the characters, but not them. So it's so I haven't really looked at the reboot of it quite yet. Have you?
No, I'm not. And I just, I'd rather just leave my memory of it the way that it is because it's such a strong memory. Mm-hmm. Probably the only show around this time that I would set aside time to watch. Yeah. I mean, obviously we couldn't record it or just pop it on whenever we wanted. You had to catch it when it was airing.
Right.
So, but it was probably the only one that I made sure I was available for it when it aired.
Do you remember what night it was?
Was it Wednesday?
I think so.
I feel like it was a Wednesday night show.
I think so.
Which that's funny. I'd never even...
Usually Wednesday or Thursdays were always kind of the big nights for shows. Yeah, it seems like
Thursday was like Cheers.
Right? Cheers, and I think Cosby Show too was on Thursdays, if I remember right.
Cosby Show dominated this time frame. I just hardly ever bring it up because it's not available to me to watch like other shows are.
Right.
It's not a part of any of my packages of my streaming services.
Is Quantum Leap? Was that?
Yes, I watch Quantum Leap every week. In preparation for this.
Oh yeah. What platform was that?
I'm not sure, and I don't want to say and accidentally promote.
Gotcha.
I mean, I get a lot of them on Peacock or Paramount Plus or Hulu. Those are all the ones I have.
I'll have to look for it because I just recently started rewatching Night Court.
Yeah, another great show.
Yeah, so
yeah, I watch Quantum Leap in preparation every week. This week he leaps into a corner.
Okay.
And
does he bump his head when he does that?
No, he doesn't.
A corner.
Yeah. Let's leave the dad jokes in Covington, all right?
Hey, I got to throw a good dad joke out there every now and then.
Wow. You're making me miss being 13 when dad jokes were a thing. I'm just kidding. That was pretty good. A young German girl who's died, and he notices it was ruled suicide, I think, but she's got a hole in the back of her head. He can't find a bullet, so he starts going through all the reasons why and who the suspects are. He's got to figure out who it was and the motive, so he's tracking down the motive and everything, and it's pretty good. I'm more imaginative and empathetic than I was in 1990, so sometimes certain content's hard for me to watch. Mm-hmm. If it's graphic or something like that. But Quantum Leap hasn't really gone into any territory that I haven't been able to handle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of the top 10 television shows this week, which character are you leaping into for a day if you can leap into a character?
So leaping into any of these characters.
Yeah, if you can leap into any character on any show in the top 10 for a day, who are you leaping into?
I'd probably have to say Sam Malone from Cheers. I think that would be a fun one. I mean, to run a bar, be an ex-baseball player. And another one, I mean, that would probably be the first one. I think another one would be Kevin Arnold from The Wonder Years. I always loved that show. So just kind of the simplistic nature of that show back in the 50s or 70s?
Late 60s, early 70s probably. Because I think his sister's a hippie, isn't she?
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, I mean, and that really that show always reminds me of when we grew up. A lot of freedoms that you had, and you're always with your friends, and the challenges. So it's really kind of relevant for our age when we were back in the 90s. That you're the week that you're looking at, growing up and trying to figure yourself out, and really a relatable show, I guess. So.
Yeah, that's a reoccurring theme with my guests. A lot of guests similar in age to us love that show.
And I think they're doing a reboot of that too.
They are.
Yeah.
I never liked Wonder Years, and I watch it in preparation, and I just, like I think I said to another guest, it's his exaggerate. I mean, things you have to do to make the show be what it is, I just were stupid hang-ups for me. Like the long pauses while he narrates.
Yeah.
Like Fred Savage's face is like, and he's just doing it for like 5 minutes while the narrator talks. And I'm like, man, there's no way in real life somebody's sitting there holding that face for 5 minutes. That's just me and my...
Wasn't there like a rumor or something that his buddy was Marilyn Manson or something like that?
Yeah, which was debunked. Or
what did it? It got debunked.
Yeah.
So.
It's been debunked, but it's funny because you'll see like a meme of Fred Savage and whatever the girl's name is that played Winnie Cooper.
Yeah.
And then somebody will Photoshop Marilyn Manson in there with him, and it'll be like the cast of Wonder Years Now. But yeah, it wasn't really him.
That's funny.
But I mean, believable enough. A lot of people believed it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. So
pretty sure I did. Which character from the top 10 is your Al?
Is my Al?
Yeah. And if you're on Quantum Leap and you've got a hologram giving you advice and helping you...
It'd probably have to be Cliff Clavin, man.
Because he's got all that knowledge.
He's got all the knowledge, and he seems to have at least some sort of insight about anything and everything there is. So what better person to have you run around? Somebody thinks they know it all. So
that's great.
That one would be the first one, and maybe Sophia from the Golden Girls. So have a little old lady run around with you.
Yeah, not frustrating in the least bit.
No, not at all.
I don't know of all these shows that I rewatch these days that any show has as many great one-liners as Cheers did. I mean, the characters, all of them deliver them, and they deliver them flawlessly.
Oh, yeah. He had Woody Harrelson. Yeah, he was kind of the farm boy from Indiana, right? Wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, farm boy from Indiana.
Yeah, gave us Indiana people a good name.
Yeah.
Like a dumb hick.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hanover. And he actually did go to college in Hanover, Indiana. Woody Harrelson, the real person, did.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yep, I didn't either till I was researching this.
That's in southern Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
Hanover College.
If you had opened a bar in 1990 with who you were in 1990, what would you have called it?
It would probably have to be something associated with my nickname. Everybody called me Brew. So, I mean, that's a good one. So, probably Brew's Place or...
Brews.
Brew with Brew or something. But it definitely have something to do with my last name or nickname or something along those lines.
So, since you have the perfect name to open a bar, I guess I got to open a restaurant, huh?
Yeah.
Grubs and Brews. Maybe we'll just open a joint venture.
Hey, there you go. What would the name be?
Brews and Grubs. I don't know.
Grub and Brew?
Brews and Grub.
Yeah.
On this episode of Cheers, Carla inherits $50,000 from an insurance policy. What is 1990 you spending $50,000 on?
Probably like a good bicycle or a four-wheeler or something along those lines that you'd want to have a little fun with. So probably sporting equipment if I were to take a stab at it. Maybe a good stereo too. I could kick off my music interest with a good system.
Yeah, but then you'd have to turn right around the next year and buy a new one because CDs weren't really... Like, it was a year or two after this that CDs became the dominant.
Okay. Well, that makes sense because that was my first stereo was had a CD player. And I remember that. I never had just a tape deck or anything along those lines.
Yep, and my CD player would have been 91, 92 that Christmas. So that's when they
Was it a single CD?
No, it was one of those units that had, like, the dual cassette tapes.
Okay.
And the CD player popped out like this, not out like that. And then a vinyl on the top.
Okay. I think mine, definitely later than that, because I think mine had a 3-disc changer or something like that on it. So
well,
fancy, I know.
Yeah. On a different world, Whitley takes a job with a cosmetic line. In the 7th grade, are you wearing Brute, Stetson, or some other 90s scent?
Brute. I still have a bottle today.
Do you?
I do.
The green? The funky green?
I still, and gosh, I've had it for 20 plus years or something like that.
Here.
Swear, it's in my medicine cabinet. And every now and then I'll just get nostalgic and just do a little doot doot behind the ears just to see if anybody would be like, "Are you wearing Brute?"
It probably automatically turns you into Sam Malone.
It very well could be. So, I do remember that one, and I do remember a fragrance called Drakkar.
Drakkar Noir.
Yeah, I had that back in the day, too. So
Brute and Stetson just had like that, typical.
Now, was the Stetsons, I remember having a couple colognes that were like small square bottles with really big wooden tops on it. Was that Stetson?
I believe it was, yes.
I think so, too.
Stetson had like the vanilla look. Vanilla... or whatever. Obviously, Brute was that funky green.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like moss green.
Yeah, I'll take a picture of it in my medicine cabinet and send it to you when I get home.
Next time I'm over, I'm putting some on.
I got to conserve it, so.
Come home and try to keep Kim off me.
That would be challenging with Brute.
Yeah, dude. Impossible. There were a ton of reruns in the top 10 of television this week. Was there a day or moment in 1990 you'd like to have a repeat of?
Maybe a little bit better time on a sporting event or something like that, a game or a close game, but I can't really think anything that sticks out. So probably a good fishing trip to Canada. So
Pee Wee Herman was on the cover of TV Guide. I had no idea he was still on in 1990, but a quick search showed me he was. Did you watch Pee Wee?
I watched the movies, Pee Wee's Big Adventure.
But not Pee Wee's Playhouse.
I think I did. Not a lot. So I do remember Cherry. Wasn't that the weird chair that was in it?
Probably.
And then the
cowboy that was...
Yeah, and wasn't there a genie that was in a box or something, like a head in a box or something? A lot of that weirded me out, too.
Yeah, it was weird. It was very unsettling.
Yeah.
Who was the cowboy? Lawrence Fishburne.
Lawrence Fishburne was a cowboy?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, I'd have to go back and check that out just to see who all was on it.
Cowboy, a chair, a genie, and Lawrence Fishburne, and God knows what else.
Yeah, Pee Wee kind of weirded me out anyways, so...
Well, he was weird. Come to find out...
Down the road, he was really weird.
Yeah. Do you remember they had a word of the day?
Yep.
Where you say the word and everybody goes, ah!
Yeah, uh-huh.
See, I should have said a word of the day before we started this episode.
Oh, yeah, that would have been good.
And every time one of us said it, ah!
Next time.
Yes, next time.
Or what was the word from Joe versus the Volcano?
Flibberty-gibbet. Yes.
that should have been the word of the day.
Yes, and next time you're on, it'll be a goal to fit that in as many times as we can unnecessarily. Like,
I like it.
I feel like such a flibberty-gibbet. Over the years, I found myself surprised at how many eventual big stars got their starts on shows like Barney or the Mickey Mouse Club. Did you watch Kids Incorporated?
No.
Don't remember it at all, or do?
I remember the title, but I don't remember the premise of the show.
It was very similar to like the Mickey Mouse Club, and on March 5th they had a new episode, but there was, again, famous people on it that I had no idea got their start on there, like Jennifer Love Hewitt, Fergie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when they were kids. Like
was
teenagers.
this like a Saturday morning thing, or?
I don't think it was Saturday morning. I really should look into it more. But they would have skits, and then they would sing popular songs. A lot of people did watch it, I think. I need to find out what it was on. Fergie was actually the longest-running cast member.
Really? I would have never guessed that.
All right, well, how about we move on to sports?
I like it.
All right.
The cover of the March 5th issue of Sports Illustrated had a picture of Oregon State college basketball player Gary Payton dribbling a basketball. Surrounding the ball in yellow letters were the words, "The Player of the Year." Under that it said, "Oregon State's Do Everything, Say Anything, Gary Payton." The cover of the March 5th Sporting News featured a large picture of a baseball with a chain and padlock around it with the word "Lockout" behind it in large print. Across the top it said, "Spring Training Issue," and in the upper left corner in a circle it said, "Your voice delivered to the bargaining table. Lockout line. Call 1-900-234-FANS." In the lower left corner it said, "A stalemate at the negotiating table leaves the baseball season in limbo." Along the bottom it said, "Lionel Simmons, LaSalle Scoring Machine," and "Position by Position NFL Salary Survey." The cover of the March issue of WWF magazine had a picture of Hulk Hogan flexing along the right side with "Special Souvenir Edition" in a bubble over his left shoulder. Down the left side were the subtitles, "Hulk Hogan faces his ultimate challenge in WrestleMania 6. Demolition loses the belt to the Colossal Connection. The Big Boss Man lays down the law his own way. Sapphire, an exclusive with Dusty's manager," and "Rhythm and Blues. Honky and the Hammer join forces." Did you go to any sporting events in 1990?
In that time frame, I remember seeing the Chicago Bulls play up in Chicago.
Really?
Yeah. So
With Jordan?
Yeah, with Jordan. So,
no way.
And probably the worst seats in the house had a pole right in front of us, so you were either looking around the pole or whatever. But yeah, I got to see Jordan play.
Yeah, man, I would. Who cares where you sat?
I
And
know.
how much you saw to be able to say you saw Jordan in '90? That's awesome.
You know, something cool to say that you're able to see something like that when you're a kid.
I'm putting that up there with Tara seeing Paula Abdul and "Color Me Bad" and Brittany seeing The Ultimate Warrior at a WWF event.
Oh, nice.
All those things happened for them in 1990, and you saw Jordan. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did you play sports in 1990?
Yeah, I played football. Got my ass kicked. I think that was the only year that I played football, just because I was a little guy back then, and when you would scrimmage against the eighth graders, that just seemed to be so much more bigger than we were back then, and faster and stronger and everything else, and you get hit. It's not something you really want to do on a regular basis. So I did play football. I liked the game, but I was just, small. I remember I was a pretty good cornerback. Got a few interceptions and block passes and things like that. So it was kind of some of my football highlights. Almost ran one back for a touchdown and an interception, but we were playing Seeger, I believe, at the time, and got a shoestring tackle. So somebody just got my feet, and otherwise I would have been gone. So it would have been my one claim to fame.
That should be your quantum leap.
It could be, yeah, to be able to score a touchdown. So.
Or a rerun it was, I guess I said. What day would you rerun?
Yeah.
Go back to that day and get out of that tackle.
Do a little high knee action. And so football, played basketball. Again, wasn't that good. So I think that year was not good for us as a team. But, we always had fun. So
in the 1990 Covington Middle School yearbook, you're beside me in the football picture. You as a player, me as a manager. Were you intimidated by my Batman shirt?
Not while I was wearing my pads. When the pads came off, the intimidation factor went up.
Well, yeah, especially considering that Batman's like half lurking out from behind my peak era jean jacket.
Yeah, the combination of the Batman and the jean jacket, I think, was quite terrifying.
I had secondhand intimidation for you.
And your half bangs,
Yes.
blowing in the wind.
There's a lot going on in that picture that just kind of created a dynamic that I would expect you to be fearful of. I noticed Mr. Roach was your 7th grade basketball coach or assistant basketball coach. I thought he left after our 6th grade year, but he's in your 7th grade basketball picture, so he still had to be there. I have a distinct memory from Mr. Roach's class. Because it was math class, we were doing something to the effect of coming up with the grocery list. We were naming items and putting them on the list, and then I don't know if we were going to add it all up or whatever. I don't know what 6th or 7th grade math consisted of. But I remember, because I was trying to fit in with certain kids, I would let them coerce me into doing anything and everything.
Right.
And as we were making this list, somebody leaned over and whispered, "Brandon, say Kotex." It was like an item to put on the grocery list. I didn't know what that was. I was like, "What's Kotex?" And they said, "It's the paper you wrap hot dogs in." Like the wax paper, I
right.
think. And it just sounded right. It made sense to me, so I did. I raised my hand and said Kotex, and he said, "Brandon, I don't think you have to worry about that." So
that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's my fun memory. And I thought that was 6th grade, but apparently it wasn't. So.
Wow, I would have thought it would have been 6th grade too.
While we're on the topic of the 1990 middle school yearbook, why didn't you sign mine?
You didn't ask?
Are you sure?
100%. I've never forgotten that, and it haunts me to this day. I'd like to sign it now if I could. Wonderful.
Front or back?
I will be in the front if that's okay with you.
Send it wherever
Is this
you
going to
want.
mess up anything?
No, it's only going to enhance it.
Enhance it?
Mm-hmm. Are you going to sign what you want to sign now or what you might have signed in 1990?
I was going to probably put 26 years later. It's about damn time you asked me.
Yeah, that works too.
I wish I would have signed it because I'd like to see what my handwriting was like back then.
Let's move on to print.
Okay.
The top book for every day between March the 4th and March 10th was Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. The Adventures of Superman, number 464 this month, was titled Blood Brawl. In it, Lobo, who is drunk, goes to the Fortress of Solitude. When Superman shows up and tells him to get out, a fight breaks out and Lobo discovers that Superman isn't as strong due to a canister of kryptonite behind a wall. Lobo believes at some point he's killed Superman and that the whole thing was recorded, but finds out later the recorder was pointing the wrong direction. The cover of Transworld Skateboarding magazine this month showed Klaus Gropp getting air on a halfpipe with his name across the middle. In the upper left it said, Poster Inside, and Florida, Virginia Beach, Colorado, and Alabama. Along the bottom it said, Pro Spotlight, Schoolyards. The cover of the March and April issue of Nintendo Power featured Mario with raccoon ears and tail above several adversaries. To the left it said, Super Mario Bros. 3, High Flying Adventure. And under that it said, Don't Miss, Silent Service, 720, A Boy and His Blob, Pinbot, Astyanax. Near the bottom it said, Big Bonus, 36-page Nintendo Pack Source Game Directory. The top 5 in this issue were Number 5, Super Mario Bros. 3. Number 4, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Number 3, Mega Man 2. Number 2, Super Mario Bros. 2. And number 1, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The cover of Time magazine said, Gossip. Where does it come from and why does America love it? In the middle.
Underneath was an illustration of a couple fighting in their bedroom, with other illustrated figures up and down either side with cameras and microphones. The cover of People magazine had a large picture of Marla Maples down the left side and a picture of Princess Diana in the upper right. Down the right side it said, Marla Maples, Trump Princess. The mysterious other woman in the Donald and Ivana Trump split is a small-town Georgia peach who's the talk of the Big Apple. Sure, it's a scandal, but the folks in hometown Dalton advise, go for it, honey. The March 8th cover of Rolling Stone magazine featured Keith Richards on the left playing guitar and Mick Jagger on the right singing with a divider down the middle between them. Across the bottom it said, The Rolling Stones. Our readers and critics agree, Artist of the Year. Act Up, Taking the War on AIDS to the Street. Beyond the Bomb, Science in the Cold War by Richard Rhodes. And Bob Dylan, A Rare Club Date. The cover of Entertainment Weekly featured a large CBS logo with the words, Save CBS above it, and How to Rebuild a Troubled Network above that. Down the left side it said, Movies, House Party, Risky Business. Comic Classics, A New Edition. Print, Cowboy Junkies, Fresh Horses. Tech, Elegant Electronics. And Kids, A Doggone Tale Nicely Told. Which one of the games from the top 5 in Nintendo Power this month are you most likely playing?
Probably the Super Mario Brothers number 3, I think, because spent a lot of time playing that game. I was, I'll be fortunate enough to have a Nintendo back then, but Super Mario Brothers, that was the one where it had more features than any other game of the Marios. So it was, you could fly, you could do a whole lot more things. It had warps and all kinds of different crazy ways to navigate through the game. So
it feels like it was a groundbreaking game with the raccoon ears and tail, I think, right? Wasn't that one?
Yeah, and the graphics. And I think you could also, in that one, you could go like when you had that character, the raccoon, you could you could kind of like bend down and then leap behind the game, the trees and everything that was in it, and run behind it. I remember kind of being able to do really unique things like that. So a lot of time was spent on Super Mario Brothers 3.
Do you think you beat it?
Yeah, I know I did.
You did?
Yeah, me and Combo spent a lot of time, and I remember, I think we were just getting ready to beat it, or we had already beat it, was playing it again, and got to the last level and used one of the whistles to see if it took you anywhere else. So I think we didn't beat it yet, and I did that, and it put me all the way back to the beginning. Combo got pissed.
What other game might you have been playing in 1990? You remember being
I remember playing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game, too. So I do remember that one. I think we would go over to the arcade in the mall and played Altered Beast.
Altered Beast was awesome.
That was one of my favorite games to play. I even got an app on my phone you can still play that
game.
So another game I played was Metroid. Mm-hmm. That game wore me out, so I could never beat it. And I think I got to one level where I quit playing it because I couldn't figure it out. So.
Do you remember beating any other video games around this time?
Ninja Gaiden was one that we played a lot. One of the fonder memories, I think, would be on Friday nights when you'd be able to, spend the night or Saturday night and go to the video store and renting the games and, trying to, stay up as late as you could and try and beat them before you had to take them back. So Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, Ninja Gaiden. Wasn't really much into the sport games so much. I think the only one was Double Dribble. It was a basketball game. I remember playing it quite a bit.
There was an ice hockey game that was pretty fun, like the original.
On Nintendo?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
It was just called ice hockey. I think I got it pretty quick after it came out. That and Kung Fu. Loved Kung Fu.
Oh, yeah. I remember the Kung Fu.
Kung Fu Ice Hockey, RC Pro-Am.
I remember the RC Pro-Am.
Excite Bike. Time Magazine took a serious look at gossip this week. Do you remember any major tea from the 7th grade?
No, I honestly don't. I don't think I was really much into the gossip aspect. Again, going back to being not overly popular, but not unpopular, kind of somewhere in the middle. I really didn't give it
yeah.
to be honest. So I wasn't involved in, any of that. I didn't really care about all that stuff, so it didn't really register for me. So
what posters are on your wall in your bedroom in 1990?
Back then, I was probably still rocking the horror movie stuff, so I was big into the Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger and things along those lines. And when friends would come over and spend the night, they wouldn't sleep in my room. We'd have to sleep in the basement. I think I can remember one person actually, we tried to sleep in my room and he had to call his mom and come and get him and take him home. Yeah, I was that weird guy. I love the horror movies and, we'd get the Jason Voorhees mask, the movie posters. That was one thing I'd love to do. I'd go down to the video stores and get the movie posters.
You couldn't get them like you can now. You just get on Amazon or whatever.
Right. No, that's what you'd have to do. You'd have to literally go to the video store and ask them if you could have it.
Especially when you're from small town Indiana. Mm-hmm. Maybe in New York they had better access to things like that, or LA. But yeah, no, there's a different world for us.
Right. I don't know if they had, was Spencer Gifts around that?
I believe so. Definitely mid-90s, but I think it was around in the early 90s.
And I think that was probably the only place that you could get posters that I can kind of remember. But yeah, I remember going to video stores all the time and just you'd write your name on the back of it so they'd know it was yours. And the day'd come down, you'd ride up there on your bike and get it and be like, all right. Friday the 13th poster.
Yeah. You could have told me that I was the friend that had to go home and I would have believed you.
It probably happened. But yeah, nobody really liked to be in my room. I was that weird dude. So
didn't scare you at all?
Nope. No, I loved that stuff. It never scared me. Going to haunted houses and things along those lines. I mean, I'd laugh at the monsters when they try and scare you or whatever. So I got kicks out of watching that stuff. And I think just a few movies would really put a little bit of fear in me. One called Phantasm. I remember that one kind of scared me, but all the other stuff kind of made me laugh a little bit. And
March is close enough to early May that I feel like it's okay for me to ask you if you had a birthday party in the 7th grade.
I would probably assume I did. My dad would take us camping on my birthday down to Tom McGurk's Lake. And I was kind of coming to the end of the era of doing that. It was when we were real young. He would generate stories of pirates on the Wabash River or something along those lines. And then, there was buried treasure and send us on scavenger hunts. And, we'd come up with a bunch of candy or something along those lines. But when we were kind of in that teenage years, it, trickled out. We weren't really into it, but we did. They created like an Olympics, like Beach Olympics is what they called it. My dad and my uncle. So we, would have swimming events and, different, things. So to try and move from the stories of pirates and whatever, for the younger we were, we'd catch on to something a little bit more physically active for us to do. So
you unlocked a memory. I do remember that. I do remember staying at McGurk's and going on a scavenger hunt type thing.
Yeah.
But only one year, and I did not attend any beach events, and that's probably why you weren't allowed to sign my yearbook.
Could be.
Do you have any memory of anything else touched on in this episode or from this time frame?
Just being kids, trying to transition from the young kid to, an older kid and figuring out, how to do that and, what you should wear and what you shouldn't wear and things along those lines. So.
Speaking of that, I noticed in your band picture in this yearbook, you were rocking the Purdue jogging suit, like the sweatpants and the crew neck or whatever. Was that your go-to ensemble?
It was back then. For whatever reason, I like Purdue. So I think that was probably influenced by my grandfather or something along those lines. So I seem to always get Purdue stuff for Christmas gifts and things along those lines.
Sweats?
Back in the day. Sweatpants, yeah. Rocked them.
Sweat constantly, whether it was Purdue or not?
Yep.
Comfortable?
Yep, sweatpants, and I probably wore jeans too. So, I mean, you always tried to have a good fashion sense back then and, pick out what you thought was going to be cool. And 9 times out of 10, I didn't do that correctly. So, but.
You think that was 1990?
Oh, boy, that'd have to be pretty close. Oh, man, that was definitely a memory that I will never forget of going up and being a page. We did it a couple times, didn't we?
I believe so, yeah. A page for my dad who worked, for the listeners and viewers, my dad worked at the State House in Indiana, and so we would go up and service pages, which is you would just kind of run errands for various people. But yeah, I was trying to decide if I thought that was 1990. If it's not 90, it has to be 91.
Yeah,
or 89, like it's all right in there.
Yeah. And I remember, was it the first time we did it, we'd sneak over to the Claypool Court, remember that?
Through the underground tunnels.
Yeah, the underground tunnels and go mess around. And
that became more frequently traveled, that tunnel, I think, after they put the Circle Center Mall in. But before that, it was more like a secret, Not really a secret, but it felt like one.
Yeah, it was very cool to be able to do that. And I think we got to skip school and go and do that for the day. And
I'm sure I still have, you had like a pin with your name and a ribbon that said Page down it.
Yeah.
I've still got mine somewhere.
I think I was got on a news camera. I remember when we were out there, they were interviewing some state legislator or whatever, and I remember being in the background, jumping up and down, trying to get on camera, and I do remember my mom saying, "Yep, I saw you in the background, jumping up and down."
Well, I think that's all I got for you, buddy.
Yes, thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man.
We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely, and every year in the 90s.
Count me in.
All right, buddy. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the 90s Week by Week. You can find links to all of our social media accounts on the90sweekbyweek.com. Feel free to leave questions, comments, and suggestions. We are always looking for ways to improve the broadcast and appreciate your feedback. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on whatever audio streaming service you use to be notified when new episodes are uploaded. If you're interested in being a guest on the 90s Week by Week, fill out the questionnaire at the bottom of the 90sweekbyweek.com. Till next time.